What's going on, guys? Welcome to the show. Welcome back to Action Movie Anatomy. We are back after a 1-week hiatus. I think like only the 4th week we've ever taken off in the history of the entire show. We careen towards episode 100, and we have a very special episode for you today. We're breaking down the absolute worst Mission Impossible movie of all time, but it stars Tom Cruise, so it's still better than like every other movie in the world. Mission Impossible 2, guys. We're breaking it down for you. You'll see in just 1 second.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's Action Movie Anatomy.
Boom! I know why you want to hate me.
Except for we didn't do that when we were at 10. We did like, we just went like this.
No, it was like headbanging. I don't know what middle school you were at.
Ben and I were both pretty chubby growing up.
All right, yeah, boom.
That's our show, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next year. All right, kill the music.
All right,
Kill
Jesus
that.
Christ. Everyone on audio just crashed if they were driving.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. Welcome to Action Movie Anatomy. Boom.
Dude, that was lit, as they say, as the young kids say.
Yeah. So this is Action Movie Anatomy. We talk action movies on this show, and you were just listening to the song, I believe it's called Take a Look Around, by the band Limp Bizkit.
They were all the same.
Yeah.
They all sounded the same.
They really did. Anyway, guys, we talk action movies here. It's the Popcorn Talk Network, the online broadcast network dedicated to talking pop culture, bucketfuls of pop culture. It's a brand new thing, right? We've expanded. We're now not just movies. We're all kinds of things. And we've been doing this show for 96 episodes.
This is our 97th, yeah.
This is 97 right now.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, guys, as much as we love Tom Cruise, we still haven't covered Mission Impossible 2 after 96 episodes.
There are still a few cruisers out there that we have not covered yet, and this one feels appropriate.
I think we established a couple weeks ago on the show, like, probably there's 7 left or so.
Right, so like that we could technically do, like we could do the Oblivion, we could do War of the Worlds, we could do
Yes, let's see. Oblivion, MI 1 and 2.
Yep.
We could do War of the Worlds. I mean, Jay Clymer Hammett's always telling us, I think it's him, who always says we should do Night and Day, which is like...
Oh, yeah, Night and Day, and my sisters love that movie. It's actually not horrible.
He's got a couple great cruise
And then Days of Thunder.
Yeah,
is
Days
the
of
other
Thunder,
one.
directed by Tony Scott. Yeah, I would say those are
that's
probably...
already 7 movies.
Those are and then we got The Mummy coming up.
Those are our next 8 films we're covering, guys.
Got The Mummy and MI6.
Oh, by the way, I'm Andrew Ghai. You can find me at Andrew Ghai on Instagram and Twitter, and you can find our podcast on Twitter at AMA Podcast.
Let me finish.
God damn it, let me finish.
You guys can find me at Ben Bateman Media on Twitter and Instagram. There's so much cool stuff going on other than just Tom Cruise's filmography.
Yeah.
And some of those things are that the fans of this show,
Yes.
beautiful, wonderful, just magnificent fans of this show, have created a Facebook fan page for Action Movie Anatomy.
What I think was so cool about it was like I was following along with the chat, and yeah, it's actually the chat itself, or the page itself is called Action Movie Anatomy Fan Page, and you guys are welcome to join, request that, and of course we'll let you in.
Yeah.
The chat was just blowing up last week. It's actually the last few weeks it's been going crazy, but last week for Saving Private Ryan, a handful of our guys in there that are big fans were just like, why isn't there a page for this? Why don't we do it? And it just happened within like 20 to 30 minutes.
Yep.
I like that.
It was amazing, and the conversations have been great. I've been doing this thing on this brand new app I'm on called Anchor, which is like Twitter meets podcasting, where every Tuesday I'm counting down one of my 50 favorite movies in order. I ranked my 50 favorite movies of all time.
Yes.
Mission Impossible 2 is not on the list.
It shouldn't be.
It's not on the list. But I've been counting down, and I've got a few of you guys who have been calling in and sharing your 50 with me, which is fun. And so now on the page, a few others have been like, here's my 50 favorite movies.
It's awesome, and it's one of those things where Twitter is so interactive that we lose a lot of things that go if we can't check it at every minute of every day.
Yeah.
On the Facebook page, we can have ongoing conversations. There's already been like 20 or 30 posts with numerous responses on there. It's awesome. And Ben and I are also, it's one of those things where we can just kind of, hey, we're about to sit down and watch this movie. Why don't you guys tune in with us? Like
Right.
we can just send in quick videos and blurbs and post in there. It's kind of a way to just talk to us a little bit more intimately.
Yes, and so last but not least, guys, you may be watching or listening for the first time because you found us on the Ultimate Movie Trivia Schmoedown in the Doubles League.
Yes.
We had our second match yesterday.
We
it
did.
was insanity.
It was one of the greatest matches of all time. Ben had a challenge that went through. You will not see that on the episode. It went into quadruple overtime, where both teams had a chance to win. But who won?
It was the first multiple overtime match in Schmoedown history.
And there were champions in the room, and everyone was blown away by. I think it was maybe the greatest episode of the Schmoedown ever.
There's been some pretty phenomenal episodes.
No.
I would put this up there in the upper pantheon. I've watched literally every episode of the Schmoedown that's ever been made, even the old ones before they were on Collider, and this was amazing. Ken Knapsack, Rachel Cushing, such amazing opponents.
Yeah, they're incredible. They're just incredible competitors, and their knowledge is out of this world. And if you guys want a little teaser, Ben and I got the action adventure category on the wheel. So go ahead and watch the episode. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Obviously, guys, what you could have used to just automatically win is this adorable picture of Ben as Limp Bizkit as a child.
I was dressing up as Limp Bizkit for Halloween. That's a lie. I just wore that hat to school.
That's his daily outfit. So this was inspired by Mr. Fred Durst.
Yes, in 2000. I mean, I think this is probably literally the same year this movie came out. It is. This picture was taken.
Great Halloween costume, but I'm assuming it was not meant to be.
We got Stephen Lemieux in the booth, everybody. How you doing, Stephen?
I'm doing pretty good.
Stephen is the executive producer of this network and co-creator of this show.
Yeah.
Just to shout out the guy who's always negative in the YouTube comments. 6 minutes into the show, guys, and you haven't started talking about Mission Impossible 2.
We're gonna get there, right? We're gonna get there.
We've mentioned it.
We've mentioned things.
There's just some random dude who keeps commenting that on all the Popcorn Talk videos.
We're not even talking about the movie.
He's like, he just goes in to find out how long it takes before they talk about the movie. It's like,
that's Stephen.
This episode is Mission Impossible adjacent.
Yes.
It's not actually about the. No, I'm just kidding. So anyway, guys, that's the whole precursor. That's our preamble. Let's get into what we're going to talk about today on the show. We talk action movies, and those action movies adhere to 4 basic rules. Rule number 1: the hero is always the smartest guy in the room. The hero always plays by his own rules.
I was going to say.
When you don't have
we don't have our outlines today, and it's amazing after doing 100 episodes, we don't even know the rules to this damn show. The rule number 1 is that the hero always plays by his own rules.
And yeah, of course he does.
Tom Cruise, Denzel, Hugh Jackman, these are people that always play by their own rules. Mel Gibson.
Ethan Hunt is like the definition of your own rules. Rule number 2: the hero and the villain are always the smartest people in the room. I mean, absolutely. One knows everything about the Chimera virus. Hunt. And he was the only agent out there that could replicate Ethan Hunt's work because of looks and because of cunning. Because
ruthlessness.
He's as ruthless as he is cunning.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Rule number 3: the movie is driven by a police, military, political, or mercenary figure.
He's part of the Impossible Mission Task Force.
Yeah, the IMF. And
led by Anthony Hopkins.
Yes, rule number for a movie.
For a movie.
Yeah, rule number 4: the movie contains a minimum of 1 explosion. Definitely. Shooting bombs from a distance and blowing them up.
Yes.
Lots of hazardous waste being shot by guns. A lot of things.
Everything explodes in this movie.
In slow motion with doves.
Yeah, there's C4 at the door. Yeah, the backflip. Kick.
It's a little smorgasbord of
explosions.
of 90s things. So that's this movie. I think hits all the rules. So let's jump into the trailer for Mission Impossible 2, and we're gonna get into Thesis right after.
It's a fine trailer.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It was the time.
I mean, 2000's pretty old.
Yeah.
17 years ago. You know?
I don't know why it's R. This movie wasn't rated R. You see that? It must have been before they changed the rating when it got released.
Crazy.
John Woo. What are you doing there?
Look, man, he does dangerous stuff, okay?
in possibly the most masculine activity for people.
Right? Like,
And then he does the turn.
swing.
Oh my god, I remember seeing this trailer.
My thesis statement is being reinforced by the minute.
Sunglasses.
I think mine is as well.
Yeah.
Identity confirmed.
Good morning, Mr. Hunt.
This is where Oakley's became popular.
Oh, yeah.
It is funny that Anthony Hopkins is only in the one movie.
It just bothers me. And it's like also, when you hear his voice in the beginning, you think you should just never see him.
Yeah, totally.
Andy Newton is so hot in this movie.
Really hot.
Oh my god.
Can I just say that designing something to display a message that you have to put on your face and then it explodes is not the best, like,
I
idea.
remember, even as a kid, I was watching this, I was like, that just seems stupid.
It's dangerous. And that's what Cruise is good at.
Hey, Luther!
The mother of all nightmares is on the loose.
Cruise is like, the glasses have to actually explode in real life. You have to make them actually explode. And I need to get them off my face just in time.
Tom, this is ludicrous.
I love that they show the scene of him dangling from the wire again. It's like, 2 movies in a row.
Yeah.
This is a necessary skill.
They're showing, like, everything.
The front
Yeah, the
wheelie.
front wheelie.
Difficult to be a walk in the park for you.
because he turns and shoots while he's doing it, right?
the him skidding his feet on the ground with the motorcycle.
That's sweet. I don't care what you say.
And completely preposterous.
Tom Cruise did it in real life.
No.
Yeah.
He did that move
Of
in
course
real
he
life.
did that in real life. He did all. It's Tom Cruise, dude. He does all of his own stunts. You know that.
I just feel like that's impossible.
No, it's a real thing.
Wouldn't it break your ankles to do that?
You just have to be not going fast enough. You have to like slippery shoes, I bet.
Oh, it's definitely possible. People do it. It's a stunt.
People do it. It's a real stunt. Tom
Gotcha.
Cruise does that shit. Actually,
Not a bad trailer.
not a horrible trailer.
No, lots of action.
For the time that it came out.
Yeah, it's John Woo, the master of action.
John Woo was not the master of many things
According
anymore.
to 1999.
Yeah, speaking of, let's get into our thesis statement because
Yes.
I've got a very good one about this movie.
Yes, absolutely. Do you want me to jump in first? Or you wanna go
Yeah,
first?
well, so a thesis statement is something it's based in hyperbole, something that's based in fact. It's not my favorite this. It's
Yeah.
the greatest example of this. It's like if someone talked Mission Impossible 2 at a party to you, you would go, oh, all right, well, I got something for you. And you would drop this knowledge
Drop the
on
hammer.
them.
You got it. Yeah, it's like you want this to be the driving force behind watching this episode. You think about it the whole time.
Yeah.
Any conversation you get in, it's like you're the expert on this because you have this opinion.
And anytime something gets brought up throughout the episode, you're like, that totally reinforces my thesis. I'm a genius.
I want to use our rule that we came up with as my thesis, except we should just dangle that later.
Yeah, we'll tangle that. Ben and I have created an amazing rule book after doing almost 100 episodes of this show, and you guys are going to love them.
Yes, and they relate to a new project that we have been teasing, but we're not going to get fully into just yet. So my thesis statement is absolutely reinforced by that trailer. So this movie
Is that John Woo is the master of action.
this movie is the best representative example of why the world hates Tom Cruise, the movie star.
Yeah.
It's not Tom Cruise, the actor. That's
And you're not
different
saying
thing.
that we ever hated him, although I did dislike him for a while. Even though I love this movie, this was the person that I disliked.
So Tom Cruise, the actor, is hated by people for the Scientology stuff and all the stuff with Katie Holmes and like his,
Jumping on couches and
all that stuff is like that's what's created that weird image of people. Though I adore Tom Cruise, so there's none of that in me. But Tom Cruise, the actor, the sort of like he became this joke movie star in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
It's this. It's like Top Gun starts it, but it's this movie. You look at that trailer and it's like, you watch this movie, and I hate to say this because I think Tom Cruise is like the greatest, but
Tom Cruise is a national treasure.
Yeah, he's not really very good in this movie.
No.
All of his scenes are just like smirking and winking and like doing
Smirking and winking and like doing shit, or he's playing himself, playing Dougray Scott playing him.
Yeah. Like by the time they did Mission Impossible 3, which is 6 years after this, he got it. He was like, all right, you know what? It's much more appealing for me to be a real actor with real chops who's having like emotional moments.
It has like real stakes.
Yeah, with other good actors and like who like all my scenes aren't just like me like eyeing up Thandie Newton from across some dancers or like having long hair and a scar on my face. It's like the dumbest thing I've ever seen. They're just like I think the biggest problem is that John Woo didn't know how to like properly direct Tom Cruise.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when you and I were talking a little bit before the show, and the two of them, and it's definitely more so on Woo because first of all, Cruise wanted De Palma to direct the sequel, and De Palma turned it down, which as much as you dislike the first one, I think that was a
better movie.
It would have been a better movie. Yeah, exactly. Directors need to know how to use their muse.
Yeah.
Tony Scott is phenomenal at using Denzel. Leo is used by Scorsese masterfully, but John Woo is not able to use Tom Cruise. He used Tom Cruise, the action star, only when you realize that the things that you like about Tom Cruise are, what is that? Aggressive sincerity.
Yeah.
It's that side of him acting that we all enjoy.
He like the only scene in the entire movie that he has that moment is after she injects herself and they're sitting behind that.
And they're just
thing.
sitting there, yeah.
And he's like,
I won't lose you.
Yeah, and that's it. And it's not even a great scene.
No, but it's the best scene.
Yeah.
In the sense of, or at least with the most stakes.
Yeah, definitely. It's so I think that the reason people hate Tom Cruise though is like when you watch this movie, it's just all winking and smiling and motorcycles and speedboats and explosions, and it's just like it's just using this one side of him that if you don't put the other side with is not likable.
Yeah, it's like he's too self-aware in the film of who he is and how he comes off, and you're just kind of like, dude, get bent.
Yeah, so before you jump into yours, I talked about this a little bit, and I think it dovetails nicely from this thesis, but the year 2000, when you look at like the eras of his career, is a weird place because basically the 80s is all about getting to know Tom Cruise. The world got to know him as this young, boyish movie star, right? And that's everything like Top Gun, Rain Man, The Color of Money, Born on the 4th of July, Risky Business. He's really young and he's really talented. The 90s, he's coming into his own.
And he has sex appeal.
Yeah, and he's playing more masculine roles in the 90s, like a little bit more adult, so A Few Good Men. Jerry Maguire is the ultimate example of like young Cruise who's kind of a man and like trying to do, but it's like still a really good movie and a really good performance.
And it's still believable that he and Renee Zellweger have this relationship
Chemistry.
or love, chemistry. Yeah.
Now the
Chemistry.
whole like late half of the '90s, and this will be stuff we'll talk about in profiles a little bit. He's doing other more relevant stuff, but just a few years after this is when he does like Collateral, Last Samurai. He feels like much more of an actual man
Worlds.
at that point. Like
Yeah.
he feels more of a grown up. This movie comes out in a weird time where you watch him on screen, and the whole time you're thinking like, you kind of look older than the young Tom Cruise that I'm used to watching in like Top Gun, but
Yeah.
you don't quite look enough of a man yet to really believe you could be this like, and you're just somewhere in the middle. It's like the sexuality with Danny Newton doesn't exist.
It's weird because, like, first of all, their relationship feels incredibly forced. It's like she's a thief with no morals that falls in love with you because you have a crazy car chase. You know, like, that's it.
That's the
whole thing.
She wants nothing to do with you, and then you guys like car chase.
You almost murder her by vehicle,
Yeah.
vehicular manslaughter.
Yeah.
But you don't.
Yeah.
And now you're in love. As a kid, I think I was just so into her that I didn't really notice.
She's really gorgeous.
But as an adult, I'm like, yeah, you guys didn't earn that relationship, and it really, Thandie Newton's the villain.
Yeah,
she betrays it.
Well, the movie came in at 3.5 hours. The original cut of this movie.
It was crazy, and they were like, the studio told him like, you get an hour and 20, and he
Yeah.
went to an hour and 24.
No,
I mean, you get 120,
Yeah.
and he went to 124 minutes.
So there's well over an hour of this movie that's cut out, which is apparently
Why there's so many plot holes?
Yeah, I don't believe that for a second. I
don't either.
I've seen other John Woo movies. They are full of plot holes because they're just action movies.
Yeah.
They don't care about those
I
things.
mean, the greatest thing that he did was Hard Boiled. I
Yeah.
think that's the one thing that everyone talks about. And it's not that we don't like John Woo. It's just that John Woo, my thesis, boom, right here. It isn't directly related to John Woo, but as we've discussed him on the show before, he basically stopped working in the States and went back to working in China.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is I think that John Woo had a really hard time moving and evolving with the times. I think my thesis is that this movie came out 2 years too late. The original came out in 96.
Yep.
This movie should have came out in 98. It would have hit all the notes well in the audience that fell flat in 2000, if that makes sense. By the time in 2000, you'd had Gladiator, you had The Matrix, you'd had the Lord of the Rings trilogy, you had movies that had really started to change what audience expected out of film. And that whole Con Air, Speed, Mission Impossible 2 fun, that was for the mid-90s to the latest at 98.
Yeah.
After that, even Gone in 60 Seconds, it's a step different. It's separated. It's just a little more dramatic.
It's more adventure.
yeah.
I mean, look, it's best. The best example of this is that, and by the way, just in case anyone's listening, we're huge fans of Lord of the Rings. It's a year after, so just we both know that. But
Yes.
I understand what you're saying. Face Off is 97. That's John Woo.
Yes.
That's like the best example of exactly when this movie should have come out, because Face Off's great and it comes out exactly when it's supposed to come out.
Yeah.
Right? It's like it is right in that time where we're dealing with that saturation of that specific kind of action. And it's weird that they waited 4 years to make the sequel to Mission Impossible. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, and like in the reading, did you see anything in there that had mentioned why it had taken so long to make another one? Because Tom Cruise was still bankable. John Woo was at the top of his game. You know, people wanted him. It's this movie. I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense.
This is the third highest grossing film of 2000. So this movie made a ton of money. It was very successful.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Like why he took time off. I mean, I guess honestly, what it was is Tom Cruise was gunning for an Oscar. That's what it was. That's why.
So before we get in, just because I think we've talked a lot about it, and I want to continue this conversation, we're going to get into Fist Bump in another game in just a second. Let's get into profiles for a minute.
Yeah,
'cause
okay.
I feel like we're kind of on it.
Yeah, sure. So I'll hop in. So Dougray Scott, he had really come onto the screen in Ever After.
Yeah.
Cinderella Story with him and Drew Barrymore. My family, my sisters love that movie. I've seen that movie more times than I care to
Ever
mention.
After?
Yeah,
I don't know that I've seen it.
it's very good.
Yeah.
It's like a modern day.
Part of your minor in romantic comedy.
It's good though. Anyway, so that's where Dougray Scott came in. Everyone kind of fell in love with him. Then he did This Year's Love in '99 and Gregory's Two Girls as well in '99. So this felt right. It was like, you're good looking. You've done other movies. You're kind of a heartthrob now that you did the love story. Let's put you in a villain role, because he does kind of have that look to him.
Oh, yeah,
you know,
big time.
just a little bit.
Hunt.
And then and then on the other end of it, you got Cruise.
Yeah.
Who's in? This is like peak phase 3. Is that what we call it, or is this phase 2?
I think
this is phase 2.
This is like the end of phase 2.
Yeah, this is the end of phase 2, and this is him peaking as an actor essentially, because he does. Jerry Maguire, Eyes Wide Shut, and Magnolia all within 3 years. He does Maguire and Eyes Wide Shut in 96 and Magnolia in 99. And
Is Eyes Wide Shut 96? Really? I thought
Yeah.
it was 98.
and unless I miswrote it, I may have. But
I think it's 98 because I think it can't be the same year as Maguire. That'd be fucking crazy.
these is when he was really. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. This is definitely you mentioned the phases and we referenced them before. It's kind of like that first phase is the
99.
99.
Must have just fat fingered it.
Yeah, but so that first phase,
Magnolia and Eyes Wide Shut are the same year, not the previous.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is.
that first phase of his career is the All the Right Moves, Taps, Risky Business, Top Gun, and it really rolls into that
Courage
early
Under Fire.
Taps. You mean?
No, you're talking about where it's rolling into the next one.
I'm talking about. You mean Born on the Fourth of
I mean,
July?
Born on the
yeah. Sorry, I was getting confused. Yeah, Born on the 4th of July. He gets the Oscar nod for
Few Good Men.
Few Good Men, exactly. And then it's. I think the second phase really starts with this movie. It's like Jerry Maguire and Mission Impossible because
Jerry Maguire, Eyes Wide Shut, Magnolia is the end of that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then that all dovetails into like all the Collateral and the like Minority Report, Vanilla Sky, War of the Worlds. The third phase is the dark phase when Mission Impossible 3 flops because of the Oprah stuff. All those down movies, and he doesn't really.
Lions for Lambs, Valkyrie's in there.
Yeah, he doesn't really come back until Mission Impossible 4: Edge of Tomorrow
/ Tropic Thunder.
Yeah.
Like I think Mission Impossible 4: Edge of Tomorrow had won movie fans back. Tropic Thunder won America back. That was like,
that's like the important
Right.
thing. It happens in the dark time.
you're not an asshole.
But people were like, "Oh, that was Tom Cruise."
Yeah,
And
he
so-
can make fun of himself.
So then by like 2014, when Edge came out, people were like, "All right, the fourth Mission Impossible was pretty good, so we're back on board." And I think now he's bankable again.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so funny that these people learn to do that. The McConaughey's, the Goslings, the Renners, like the Tatums. You have to know how to make fun of yourself if you're going to be that good looking.
It's like the most endearing quality.
You really do, yeah. So is that all you wanted to talk about, star profiles?
Yeah, just talking about, I think, sort of when this movie came out and like why it was successful, why he chose to make such like a crappy movie as the sequel to like. But I don't think he had quite gotten there yet in terms of because he unifies his brand. The tail end of Phase 2, when it really does end with War of the Worlds, is him realizing, I'm done trying to win Oscars.
He was lost. That's what it was.
Yeah.
He was just completely lost.
He's like, I think Last Samurai can be kind of referenced as probably the last time that he tried to win an Oscar, and I think he does get robbed there because he's really good. But I mean, that's like that string of movies, which is like Vanilla Sky, Minority Report, Last Samurai, Collateral, War of the Worlds. The majority of those are just like masculine, actiony, big, epic. And then after that, when he comes back, it just becomes, I'm not going back to the old style.
Right.
Everything I want to make has to be kind of in the vein of like big, epic, exciting. I'm going to be the guy that does my own stunts. That's going to be my thing. Mission Impossible was really successful for me, so I'll stick with that formula. I'll make The Mummy. I'll make Edge of Tomorrow. I'll make Oblivion. Sci-fi stuff.
Yeah, and he's clearly solidified. He's you can see him, and he's so comfortable. It's like he's self-aware in the movies, but he's so self-aware that it comes off like that. He's watching it like we're watching it.
Yeah.
So when you see stuff happen in MI5 as he kind of gets like kicked around, or it's like those moments of him frustrated and like he's getting older.
Yeah.
We're all seeing that, enjoying it together, and he's using those.
But he's also more jacked than you or I, and he's 53.
Oh, absolutely, he is. But I just mean, like, when he gets he gets his ass kicked, or he's like getting up, and you can see that it's a little harder for him.
Oh, yeah.
I just love that.
The Grizzled Cruise is a great face.
Yeah. Another one of my thesis statements was that no director has ever been more mesmerized by movie magic than John Woo. And the face switch, because I want to get into that here with our fist pump moment.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Okay.
So fist bump moment, guys, that moment in a movie you're watching, something happens, and it's just like, yes, this is so awesome. Or you look at your buddy, you're like, are you seeing this right now?
It's like you're in on the joke. And it starts to happen in the movie, or you're in on the secret, and you're just like, yes. That's what it was for me in this.
Yeah. So it doesn't have to be a specific thing like a headshot or a line. It can be anything you want it to be. It can just be the tone of voice someone uses the first time you see an actor on screen, Gary Busey's teeth, whatever you want.
When music comes on, anything.
Yeah, go ahead. So
mine, it's definitely, no matter how many times I watch this movie and how old I get, I will still always love the ridiculous moment when Gray Scott's like, this is called getting your gun off. And he just murders Tom Cruise, like beyond murders him. After he shoots him in the leg, he's like, what, you can't talk? He's like, and then his partner's like, I'm afraid he broke his jaw. Yeah. But for some, okay, so this is the 5th time that the face swap has been used at this point in the film. Yeah. But my fist pump is for sure when he pulls off the face mask and you see the horror in his eyes, and then Cruise is running around the corner with the thing. Dugray's like, yeah! And he's running around with the virus, and he pulls it off like dun 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 dun. Like that was so awesome as a kid, and like no matter how stupid this movie is, I just like feel like I've been screaming in the microphone for 30 seconds. No matter how awesome or ridiculous this movie is, that moment will always make me fist pump. I'm always like, yes!
I would agree. I think there's a lot of fist pump moments for me. All of my fist pump moments in this movie are silly moments. None of them are like, that is so badass.
Right.
They're all like just like absurdity. I think probably my first fist pump comes from the fact that we're gonna show this thing in just a second here.
Did you know that Gleason was in this?
I forgot.
So when you saw him, was that a little mini fist bump?
Oh yeah, anything Gleason's in. But we're gonna show this thing here, and it was from I think the MTV Movie Awards this year in 2000. Yep. Stiller and Cruise had become friends, and so Stiller would spoof Cruise sometimes. And I hadn't seen this movie since it came out in 2000. But the moment in the movie when he's doing the rock climbing at the beginning,
and he swings
like
around,
hanging by one hand, and he does the like backward swing where he's like suspended, and you see, and it's in the trailer. You're like, oh yeah, this is sweet. You're like, this is totally absurd, and like, so Stiller references it in this thing, and when you watch it, it's like, it is exactly the shot from the movie.
Amazing.
And the shot of the movie is just as stupid. It's like just as silly. And I saw it, I was like, this movie. This is early in the movie. This is sweet. This is good.
I mean, this is literally that's like 4 minutes in.
Yeah,
that's
like
amazing.
Really early. So let's cue this up. We'll watch a bit of this. This is funny.
Yeah, it's watch like 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes. This is so good.
Yeah. Have you seen this, Steven?
No, he hadn't.
I don't think so.
Oh, dude, it's so good. Dude.
That stupid laugh.
And the music is like dead on too.
I have to ask myself, who is Tom Cruise? What is Tom Cruise?
He even looks all skinny and weird, but like kind of Cruise does too in the
totally,
scene.
Yeah.
When is Tom Cruise? I think if you're going to be a really good stunt double, you have to really become one with the actor. You have to walk like the actor, talk like the actor.
Change your name so it's
legally change your name to sound like the actors. I don't think of myself as a stunt double, really. It's more like I'm a stunt one.
My face hurt. My face hurt.
I don't think Tom's going to want to do that kick. All right, that's not the way he moves. He doesn't pivot that way. He likes to lunge left. He doesn't usually scoop under right. I think it's a bad idea. He's never going to go for it. It's not realistic. It's not a Tom Cruise kick.
Tom said he wanted to go with a kick.
I've done 14 films with Tom, all right? So I think I have a pretty good idea of what Tom does or doesn't want to.
How's that kick coming along, huh?
He doesn't think you'd go with a kick.
What?
The way we work is he'll go through sometimes and do the scene.
The kicking is absurd.
It's helpful.
That's my other fist bump.
There's an inordinate amount of kicking.
Slow-mo,
You know what,
ridiculous
I think
kicks.
it's
Yeah.
Tom. I mean, I never say to Wu's face, but I think you got, like how many times can we look at you kicking a guy and then getting kicked in the face? I just.
Which is
You know
so
what? Kick-
true.
kick-
Yeah.
Let's call it. Let's call it kicking impossible.
You could go.
Let's call it kicking impossible.
You know, he's harmless. He's harmless. He's harmless. He's.
This is great.
Cut.
This is great.
Out of Tom.
On a top.
Stop.
Tom Cruise does most of his own stunts, so he doesn't really need a stunt double. But we make good use of the other Tom Cruise. Harder.
I mean, I'm always thinking, I'm always brainstorming ways to make the fight look better.
You come at angle, so he come jump right over.
All right, see if we can.
Yeah, it's good. There's about 4 more minutes of that, guys. If
crazy
you guys
thought.
want to
Just
find it
gotta
online.
It's definitely worth a
What
watch.
if?
Yeah, just type in Tom Cruise, Ben Stiller, and
Yeah.
you'll be able to.
The other fist bump moment for me is the kicking, because it's like
It's absurd.
All of these like slow-mo running jump kicks, kicking the back of dudes' heads. It's just like, I mean, it makes a great reference to it. There is too much kicking.
Yeah,
You should have called the movie Kicking Impossible.
Kicking impossible. Yeah, just kicking impossible. So this is something that I was thinking about when I was reading the trivia about this film. Is Ghai Scott? He turned down a movie to do this film. And the movie that he turned down was the role of Wolverine
In X-Men.
in X-Men.
He was slated to shoot it. It wasn't even like a thing where you read in the notes. It's like he was offered and
Right,
thought
yeah,
about it.
excuse me, exactly. He was booked. He was slated. He was in the books.
Yeah. And so Jackman got the role after Dougray was like, I'm going over on MI2.
Way over.
I can't shoot this. And so Jackman gets the role that ends up becoming the career-defining role for Jackman.
Role of a lifetime, one of the greatest roles ever for someone of that age and stature.
I also have to think that, honestly, I don't think that X-Men would have been the movie that it was with Dougray as Wolverine.
You know, it's another one of those things, hindsight is 20/20, all things happen for a reason. Every single time that you and I have done this and talked about it, it's been better. It's been a better movie because of the fact. So I pulled a couple other ones, and one of the biggest ones that popped in my head was Will Smith turning down Neo.
Yeah.
That is one of the greatest. He turned down Neo to do Wild Wild West,
Yep.
which was one of the biggest missteps of his career, and one of the greatest things to happen to cinema.
And also, let's not forget Ian McKellen getting the role of Gandalf after Sean Connery turned it down because he didn't get it.
Yeah, Sean Connery just read the books, and he was just like, I don't get it.
I don't get the role.
And then Christopher Plummer also turned it down.
Yeah.
So a couple more I just wanted to throw in just because I thought it was interesting. Gibson turned down the role of Kyle Reese.
Was it Kyle Reese or was it? I thought he turned down the fucking role of
The T-1000 or of the Terminator.
Of the Terminator.
Oh, well, see, I think you're right. I just wrote that down because I assumed it was for Kyle Reese.
Because I know that Cameron really wanted Schwarzenegger. Like in the
Right.
end, he was like, I won't make this movie without him. But I also know Cameron loved
Gibson for Mad Max,
and he wanted to use him.
Right.
So I think he turned it down because he was like, I'm flattered, but I don't think I would be a good enough fit for the role.
So there's a couple other ones that are like, okay, that's interesting. So Leonardo DiCaprio turned down Dirk Diggler, which I think is like, that's one of the ones where it's like, he still had a great career, still a great movie, who knows? Denzel turning down the role in Seven of Morgan Freeman is another one like, could have been cool, could have been awesome.
Sure, yeah.
The two, though, that I have on here that I really am just like, thank God, are Travolta turning down Forrest Gump. Could you imagine that? My name's Forrest Gump.
That seems like one of the little trailers at the beginning of Tropic Thunder.
Yeah, it would literally be it would be a joke. And then the other one that I think this is the biggest of everything we've mentioned,
Saturday Night Gump,
is Josh Hartnett turning down the role of Bruce Wayne in Batman Begins.
Yeah, that's a huge one.
That's the biggest one for me. That's crazy.
Massive. Yeah, we also last week on Saving Private Ryan, I think.
Oh yeah, this is another one.
Billy Bob turned down the Tom Sizemore role, the second lead in Saving Private Ryan because he was scared of water.
Yeah, he couldn't film the Normandy beach because he has a phobia. So anyway, I just thought that was a fun little thing to talk about. I think all those movies are better for the fact that they didn't happen, but just something to think about.
Yes. So, guys, so much of this movie's writing and plot is all centered around the Chimera virus.
Oh yes! This is awesome. I love this.
The Chimera virus. And look, when you cover action movies for 100 episodes, you come across a lot of fake devices and names of things that are just entirely created to just be like a sweet plot device.
Just to sound badass. Like that, it goes beyond just the names of the characters, like Memphis Reigns.
Because when you're 10 years old, the names of the name of the character, the name of the device, the operation, the team name, whatever, they're super sweet. Like that's what you remember.
So I've got a few here that I've written down from movies that we've pulled or done, and you've got a list of some that you created to get put in our action movie that we're writing.
Yes.
So we've got Operation Iron Hand, Operation Treadstone, Blackbriar, The Rabbit's Foot, Delta 9. We've got the CN-20 nerve gas in Aliens, VX gas in The Rock, Black Smoke in War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
Like these are all, and then of course in this one, Chimera and Bellerophon.
Yeah.
So these are all just none of these are real things. These are all just created from old mythology. These are all basically nerve gases though. So what do you have over there, my friend?
Oh, I got some good ones here.
Oh,
All right.
do you?
So in the late 1980s.
Rabbit's Foot.
In the late 1980s, during the Cold War, the United States government came up with a secret program called Phoenix Protocol. If a nuclear disaster started, there would be a giant airship that would rise from the ashes, carrying out the most valuable members of the United States government into space. Phoenix Protocol would only enact with a certain level of radiation in the United States atmosphere.
That is it was 420 yesterday, by the way.
Phoenix Protocol. Okay.
The backstory for that is brilliant.
Yeah. All right. Genesis Chamber. The Genesis
That's like
Chamber.
a real thing, I think.
The Genesis Chamber is a solar-powered hibernation unit created by Derek Sabers in 1997.
Is that one of the names from the other
yeah,
episode?
Yeah, his name from our Swordfish episode. Now, Derek Sabers was involved in an intense nuclear plot to blow up the world. What he was going to do was he was going to hibernate in his solar-powered Genesis chamber for 40 years, so that when he would come out, the radiation levels of the world would have calmed down, and he would then rule the world because he survived in his Genesis chamber.
He would just be by himself, though.
Yeah, that one's less well thought out. Okay, and then my last one is the Hydra Principle.
Oh, I like this one.
The Hydra Principle was created by Adolf Hitler during World War II. Now, it was a special nerve microchip implant in the brain of all of the firstborn children of the Third Reich. And when Hitler killed himself towards the end of the war, all of these
allegedly,
all of these the offspring, this little chip, and basically put into their bloodstream this crazy nerve agent that made them basically living, walking, talking, breathing nukes.
Hitlers. Oh, nukes.
Nukes. So they're all elderly citizens when the movie takes place.
Wait, so they're still out there right now?
The movie is called The Hydra Principle, and we find out that there's all of these like elderly citizens hiding, living in bunkers that are basically nuclear bombs. Secret black market nuclear bombs.
Is Tom Cruise dead from Valkyrie? Did he die in that?
Yes.
Fuck.
Yeah.
I was going to say, he's got to come and find them.
The Hydra Principle.
The Hydra Principle. Hey, guys, if you've got any really awesome names or anything that we've talked about so far in the episode, any other Hindsider 2020, any other cool chemical names, just shoot them over at us at AMA Podcast.
The theory basically is that scene in The Rock when they're all on the radio, and he's like, and like Ed Harris is talking about whatever.
I flew Black Hawk missions, that whole speech, yeah.
And he's like, the Red Sea Trading Company was a slush fund created for black market arms.
Jesus
sales.
Christ, Frank, that's classified information.
Frank this out, Kramer. How you doing, Al?
I don't know, angry people down here. All right, so let's move on to, now that we've just been rambling, let's move on to actually talking about the movie and production development.
The movie's written by Robert Towne.
Yeah, we'll get into Robert Towne because I think John Woo, Tom Cruise, and Paula Wagner are all pretty, we've covered them a lot, so that'll be a little more long-winded.
Yeah, I mean, Robert Towne's a pretty legendary screenwriter. He's most famous for having written the screenplay for Chinatown, which gets referenced by people very often as the most famous screenplay of all time, or close to it.
I haven't seen it.
Chinatown?
Yeah.
It's really,
love it?
really good. Yeah. It's 74 was a really cool year for movies. I mean, 74 you had The Conversation, Godfather Part 2, Chinatown, and two other pretty relevant movies, but those three all getting nominated for Best Picture. Those are three classics.
Those are big ones.
All-timers. So he wrote a bunch of other stuff. He wrote The Last Detail, 1972, Jack Nicholson film. He wrote Mission Impossible 1, Mission Impossible 2, directed 3 or 4 films. He didn't really work a whole lot after about 2000. He's 82 years old. He is still alive, but
Jesus.
Most notably, the guy that wrote Chinatown wrote Mission Impossible 2. It's not a great script.
Yeah, and you and I, we've talked about this a lot on our show, and we just talked about it earlier on this episode, is that it's hard to move with the times. Whether you're a writer, director, honestly, the easiest thing to do is act and evolve with the times.
Yeah, and I think also that writers, there's a really distinct problem, which is that your name getting slapped on a successful film that is financially successful is success in the world of Hollywood, because if the film makes money and your name's on it, you get to do more work.
Yep. Even if you didn't even write that draft that was in the movie.
Yeah. If your name's on it and it doesn't make money, it's harder to get work.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. No one really cares or has any awareness of, did you write all of the words? Is it like a script that you had a lot to do with? With action movies, very often it has nothing to do with stuff you wrote. It's just the way that it was edited, the improv on set. You just get the credit for it. So I don't think you have to really blame Robert Towne for the script. I think he probably wrote a draft that was decent, and was 3.5 hours long at least.
Exactly. I was just gonna say, and if there's 3.5 hours long and you're a writer, you got to remember that's what a third of your book is not there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then moving on to director John Woo, made famous for A Better Tomorrow, Hard Boiled, The Killer,
Enter the Dragon.
Did he direct Enter the Dragon?
Didn't he?
Is that true?
Oh no, his movie was the most successful movie in America since Enter the Dragon.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
And then he basically came over to the States and he did, a small handful of movies. I think the most famous of which is Face Off.
I do love Broken Arrow though.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot that he directed Broken Arrow.
Yeah.
That's the in-between movie.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So Face Off, Broken Arrow, and MI2, I think, are the big 3 American hits.
Right, and then he did Wind Talkers with Cage and Adam Beach.
What? That's him too?
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm reading here, unless I'm just making all this up. And Paycheck. which I love.
That
Paycheck.
one I remembered.
That's Affleck and Eckhart.
Yeah, I chose not to reference that film.
It's a very good movie.
That's right that's your blockbuster era right there.
That is absolutely my blockbuster era. And that's, again, so it's one of those things where I think we realized that his style of film, his style of direction was something that was appreciated in the 90s in America. And I don't know what the film industry is like in China, but he seems to be doing well there and still being successful. So maybe it's just one of those things where our audience went in one direction, he went in another, and he just likes making this type of movie, and he's not going to not do what he wants to do.
Fire, slow-mo, doves, golden guns, sliding on your side and shooting. Like, that's the stuff you like to do, and, you know, that's what this movie's about.
The doves, while doing the running, slow-mo, kicking backflip with the guy that hops out from around the corner. Like, that guy's job is to sit in that corner until he hears something coming, then pop out and hold on. Oh, sorry, boss, it's just you. You know, like, anyway, so moving on to, you know, Wagner and Cruise, you've basically got this down to like a memorized monologue.
Yeah, I mean, with Cruise and Wagner, like the first film they produced together was Mission Impossible 1. She had been his agent and as early as 1993, and they started producing movies together. They did, I think, until about 2008, at which point they stopped. Valkyrie, I think, maybe was the
Valkyrie
last.
And Lions for Lambs were the two flops that kind of put them to bed.
So now Cruise, I think, just produces by himself. But they did a lot of successful films together. A lot of the biggest movies that Cruise did, all that stuff, and all that stuff in the early 2000s, where he had like, there was a stretch there where I think it was something like 7 out of 8 were $100 million.
Oh, absolutely.
Movies.
And I don't know, I can't speak on their relationship now, but I feel like it's one of those things where you do business for a long time and things start to flop, you just move on. I would hope that they're still friendly. Because they had so much success together.
Yeah, definitely.
So moving on to this movie and its critical box office reception, which is it's pretty interesting because I'm sure you know critically this movie did not do well, but at the box office it did real well. So this movie cost $125 million, which, by the way, is $55 million more than Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
This movie cost $125 million. It was produced by Paramount. It was released in May of 2000. It was a summer blockbuster. It grossed $215 million domestically with an additional $330 worldwide for a grand total of $546 million unadjusted in 2000. It opened at $57 million. This was Tom Cruise's star power speaking volumes in his prime.
Yeah, 2000's right in it. You can see here, this is the box office, this is the unadjusted domestic numbers in 2000. How the Grinch Stole Christmas was the #1 movie.
Makes sense.
I would never have guessed that.
I mean, that if we're talking about people in their prime, this is Jim Carrey in his prime. Everyone loves Dr. Seuss, and like, I remember that movie. I went and saw it in theaters.
I mean, you think about when you talk about bankable, right? So let's just go through this list and see.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Jim Carrey, he's *1,
Yep.
right? So that's 260. Hanks in Castaway is #2, 233.
Yep.
Got Cruise in Mission Impossible 2 at 215. Russell Crowe, Gladiator, 187. This is right in. He wasn't as much of a box office star.
This
that was
is
more
so good. Then you got Mel Gibson in What Women Want. You've got Clooney and Wahlberg in The Perfect Storm.
Which makes sense too that that movie didn't do as well as the other ones because Clooney and Wahlberg in this year were not quite as big as they would get.
Yep. And then you've got Ben Stiller on his way up in Meet the Parents with Tay Leone and or not Tay Leone. I always mix those two up.
I can't remember.
Yeah, I always quiz you on that.
Yeah, De Niro.
Terry something, and then De Niro, and then you've got X-Men, of course, which is.
Yeah, that's a weird one because X-Men didn't have star power to make money. It
didn't. I think it just had the appeal.
Yeah, I think it just had the appeal. And then Scary Movie, which was the early hit with those stupid parody movies.
Yeah, that was the beginning of the beginning of the end, as it was. And this is a story, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I do love this story. I've been telling it for a long time. My friend told it to me, is that the Wayans brothers, wrote that film, not ever expecting to make another one, and they were offered to do the second one, and they said no. And I heard that like the VP or the CEO or someone from the production company showed up at their door with a check for $100 million for the two of them, being like, make the movie.
Oh, I didn't know
this
that.
Is yours. Because that movie was a massive success.
Oh, yeah.
It cost near nothing to make. All of the movies have been pretty successful up to like 4 or 5 is when it kind of started to fall off. But like,
I wonder how much does Scary Movie cost? Steven, would you mind checking that
they
for
made
us and see what the budget on Scary Movie was?
Insane amount of money.
What lies beneath making 155? It makes
sense.
sense.
Is that Pfeiffer and Ford?
Yeah, it's the tail end of Ford. 2000?
19 mil.
$19 million to make. And how much did it gross?
157 domestic.
157 domestic. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's a really good return.
So you look at studio heads. They're like, yeah, do it.
Do another one.
And the second and the third are great. So critically, this movie got a 6.1, and
a 6.1 seems high.
It's very high.
Yeah,
and it totally is the opposite of our algorithm, which makes perfect sense for this film. It's got a 57% by all critics, 58 by top, and a 43 by audience.
Yeah.
Because as an audience, especially now, we expect something different from Tom Cruise. And at the time, like you said, it was the Tom Cruise no one liked.
I'm curious to know. So, if a blockbuster is characterized by making an American blockbuster is characterized by making $100 million domestic, I would love to see, is this the worst Tom Cruise blockbuster?
I don't.
Probably his later stuff, because
If like Oblivion somehow crested it or somehow
probably did.
I bet you Edge made less money than this, for sure.
Adjusted, you mean? Or
yeah,
Edge made 172. No, it made 330 something worldwide is what it was.
right.
So it made more than 100, but yeah. But I mean, that's also a 14-year difference.
Yeah, and it's one of those movies. Edge of Tomorrow was one of those ones that he was fighting to win people back. Still,
Yeah.
that was the one action movie where you saw it again that was different, that wasn't Mission Impossible, and you're like,
Yeah. Surprise.
I'm in.
Big surprise on
Yeah.
that one. Yeah, nobody expected that.
So I think that covers it. So let's move on to favorite line.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. Do you have what is your favorite line, Ben?
Hunt.
Hunt. Is it really?
I think the script in this movie's bad.
Yeah.
And like all of the conversations are bad. So like there's really almost no line in the movie that stood out to me.
Yeah. I mean, Hunt. I wrote that. Anytime that Dougray says Hunt.
Yeah, it says Hunt.
And then the other one that pops in my head is the one that I just said. I'm afraid he's broke his jewel.
Yeah.
That line, and then and the other one's when he shuts the door on him, and he's like, "You never know who you might run into."
Yeah.
He's like, "All right, now where's the loo?"
The guy,
like the finger.
That dude who, like the tech guy who was later to be replaced by Simon Pegg, who's just a less good version of Simon Pegg. Basically.
Yeah, they just never acknowledged him being out of the franchise.
I didn't even remember he existed. I saw his face and I was like, "Is that
Letha?"
Yeah.
You're like, stop talking.
He doesn't even die. And they also did like a lot of like reference to like Luther wearing designer clothing, which I guess is a gimmick they dropped because I don't remember that from the later movies.
They might have said something about his shoes or jacket later on.
Okay.
But then, like, what about the bomb on the van
Yeah, there's another
that he just like sees in the rear? First of all, what is your rear view mirror doing focusing at the ground? Come on now.
Yeah.
You're supposed to view the rear, right?
Yeah, right. Not the floor.
It's an IMF van. So yes, I think that definitely that was absurd. I think probably my other favorite line is when Brendan Gleeson is he's like tied up or whatever, and he's like, "I'll admit it. You have my confession. I'm in the business of making money." Yeah.
Yeah. Gleason's RAR in this is fantastically high.
Gleason's got a high RAR. That's rating above replacement, guys. It's a new term Andrew and I are working on.
Yes.
We'll be debuting that soon, debuting it soon.
Debuting it. Oh, and I actually do like the beginning. Well, this isn't mission difficult, Mr. Hunt. It's mission impossible. Difficult to be a walk in the park. Yeah, you're like, all right,
it wouldn't
cool.
be a holiday if you knew where I was.
Oh, man. This movie's... I feel like we need to just reflect for a second on this film. Just for like 30 seconds before we get into the categories. It's not horrible.
No.
It's fun to watch.
It's enjoyable. It's more enjoyable than definitely some movies we've covered on here, for sure.
I would highly recommend being slightly inebriated or at least under the influence of something.
And also, for the record, like, you cannot be a fan of our show and not have seen all 5 Mission Impossibles. You can't.
Right. Although...
I hate you guys.
Steven is a big fan of our show. Steven helped create the show, and Steven has never seen any Mission Impossible.
If you were going to...
Is that like the worst thing for somebody who runs a movie, or well, it used to be a movie network?
Honestly, man, I've just never been more shocked at something you've told me about film, I think.
It's pretty surprising considering...
You'd have to go out of your way.
Well, also considering our show. Like, you are the producer of the show, and like you have like talked to us about our show so many times.
You've engineered other Mission Impossible episodes. I feel like at least one of them.
I just am surprised you haven't gone out of your way to watch one of the movies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I just
we're
haven't.
still
Just
very
haven't.
happy to have you in the booth.
But I can't be a fan of the show.
You can't be. You're not a fan anymore.
So here's the question. Let's play this game.
Okay.
Somebody hasn't seen a Mission Impossible movie. What's the order you recommend they watch them? You don't necessarily want to just say best to worst.
I think you and I have had this discussion before.
We've ranked them.
Yeah.
But I don't think you'd want to just say watch this one first. If you had to watch all 5 movies, where would you start? This is what I would say.
So I instinctively, right off the top of my head, I think I go 1, 4, 3, 5, 2.
Okay.
1, 4, 3, 5, 2. So that's 1. Rogue Ghost.
The Rogue Nation's. Ghost is Ghost Protocol's 4.
4. So Ghost.
Yep.
And then MI3.
Yep.
And then Rogue Nation, which is 5, and then 2 to come back and be like, the only one that I would switch is maybe 4 and 5. So let me tell you my reasoning behind this.
Yep.
I think you need to see the first one.
I think
you have to see the first one.
I agree.
I always agree with that. I think the fourth one is the most user-friendly, palatable, appealing to the audience. It's got the Burj Khalifa. It's a little more fun. It's not
the Kremlin. They blow up the
Kremlin. It's just like very cool, you know. And then 3 is like, all right, I'm into the franchise. Now give me a real fucking movie. Excuse my language.
Yeah.
And then 5 is, or 4 or 5, if those are switching, is again back to like super fun, very well made. Like this is a good place where the franchise is going. And then 2 is like, this is what you missed.
Yeah, I would say I think I completely agree with you. There's a part of me that wants to say watch 3 second, but I think that's a little too meta. I think that's like us being like a little in too deep.
Yeah, I think I agree.
I think that if you watched 1 and then you watched 3, you might just be like, I don't get what the appeal here is. Why do people still talk about these movies? And I think that you're right that it's 5 or 4. It has to be second.
And I almost want to say 5 because I like 5 more than 4.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough one. I think I would go 1, 4, 3, 5, 2, which I think is what that was your initial
second.
instinct.
Yeah. So, guys, just get at us. Let us know what you guys think. Rank the movies. What order did you watch them, or what order do you think you should have someone watch them in? And also, if you know someone that hasn't seen them, do it.
Yeah, because I think my argument would be 1, you have to start with. 4, it's like Cruise is still young enough looking that he still feels like it's not that much of a departure from the first movie.
That's true.
And so he still feels like he's sort
5,
of...
he's
grizzled.
Yeah.
So you have to watch 5 a little later, and even the payoff with 5 when he runs from off screen and jumps on the airplane is like, Hunt's been doing this for a while.
You and I, that was like 20 years later, and he's still doing it. That makes sense.
He jumps on screen, and you're like, oh, and Luther. There's a lot of callbacks to the 5th movie that you kind of need. So I think going 4, and then 3, and then 5, and then 2.
Yeah,
makes
so
the
1,
most
4,
sense.
3, 5, 2. That's funny. Of course we both agree on that.
Yeah.
All right, so getting into the categories here, this is going to be an interesting conversation. On this show. I don't think so. On this show, we have 3 action movie categories. Those categories are
Totally ridiculous, totally legitimate, and ridiculously legitimate, and they are just what they sound like. So totally legitimate movies are movies that are like The Fugitive and Terminator 2, Gladiator, Lone Survivor. They're pretty serious overall. They hold together dramatically really well.
They could win awards.
Yeah, they don't poke fun at themselves really, and they're pretty engaging the whole way through. Movies that are totally ridiculous are like Face Off and like Con Air,
Demolition Man.
Yeah, they're pretty laughable the whole time. It's hard to take them very seriously. They're super enjoyable, but it's just for a different reason.
Absolutely.
And then ridiculously legit's the middle category. So that's like The Rock, Point Break, Predator, movies that they hold together with maybe one really strong principle.
Those are almost our favorite movies of the show. Those are the most appropriate movies for the show.
When we created the show in the first place, it was a big list of those. That's what we wanted to cover. And we've just found over the years now that doing this show, there's a place for all 3. For me, this movie literally never once the entire movie enters the conversation of legitimacy.
I agree.
So it's totally ridiculous.
Yeah, it's totally ridiculous. And I think the biggest reason why is that there are no, and I always talk about this, there's no stakes in this movie. Fanny Newton's not going to die. And even if she does die, who cares? Who are you?
Yeah.
There's no relationship. You're not his wife. You're not Michelle Monaghan. Okay, this is the third thesis I had, and I'd said, no director has ever had to apologize more for a previous film in the franchise
than J.J. Abrams.
Than J.J. Abrams for John Woo. So you're talking Carrie Fisher, or not Carrie Fisher. I don't know where that came from. Carrie, what's her name? The brunette that dies.
Not Carrie.
What's her name?
Oh, Carrie Russell.
Carrie Russell. So you got Carrie Russell in there. Is just like one of those things like, this is a real movie. Someone is going to die.
Yeah.
You got Michelle Monaghan, who's his wife in the beginning, who does die into your knowledge. And then you've got the most important thing, which is that they show how difficult it is to recreate the face and voice recognition mask and thing that they do in 30 seconds in this movie.
Yeah, the most like daring stunt in the movie is when Cruise gets thrown into a car sideways and like a drone flies over him. Like that's the crazy moment.
Yeah,
that's the stunt, and
that's
like it's a great stunt. And not only that, you've got the guy that won Best Actor for that year as the villain.
The villain.
It's like everything about 3 was like, we're gonna go in a little more of a serious direction.
It was just making up for the things in 2 that we all as an audience were like, that's not good.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah. So that was just a little tangent I had. So there's only one more thing left.
Yeah, and that's gonna be something called The Pitch. I'm glad we never got the sound.
I know, I've gotten really good
You're
at it.
Good at it. You do the cougar growl.
Do we have a pitch?
Yes, we do. We actually do.
Oh, yes, we do.
Yeah. This is episode 97.
Mm-hmm.
We've got 3 weeks till episode 100. Episode 100 is going to be a really big deal, guys. We have a lot of really fun stuff planned for that week.
Yeah.
There's a huge number of things that Andrew and I have talked about over the course of the last couple of years, and we've gotten closer and closer to those things, and we don't usually have time. Like, if we wanted to rank at this point 96 movies, that's a whole show.
Yeah.
So we decided for episode 100 for that week, we're going to film a bunch of additional stuff, and we're going to give you guys a piece of content every single day
Of that week.
between 99 and 100, leading up to the 100th episode. You're going to get a piece of content for 7 days, and we have a lot of fun stuff planned. We've talked about a lot of cool stuff.
Get on our at AMA Podcast on Twitter and find the Action Movie Anatomy fan page on Facebook.
Yes.
This is where you will find these things.
So the pitch, guys, is Jurassic Park.
Yes!
We weren't going to do Jurassic Park for a long time. We were going to stay away from it, and we just it's like the closer we get to it, the more we realize that like the rules we use and they're important, but it's more important that we do classics with a lot of action in them, and that's a classic with a lot of action in it.
That's chaos theory.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's Jurassic Park, man. We do not have to legitimize or defend why we're doing it on the show. It's one of the greatest adventure action movies of all time. It just needs to happen, and we're going to do it.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. We're really excited to do this one, guys. I haven't gotten to watch the first Jurassic Park in a while.
Goldblum in his prime.
In his fucking prime.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah,
it's been a long time since I've watched it from beginning to end as well.
So that'll be a fun one. So guys, check back next week. You're going to find us doing Jurassic Park. Go find that Schmodown episode. See how that ends. It was so much fun.
Yes.
And of course, guys, get amped. Follow us on Twitter. You can find me at Ben Bateman Media.
And you guys can find me at Andrew Ghai.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for engineering, Steven. Welcome back to the booth.
Yeah. We'll see you guys next week.
See you guys.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
Views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.